In spite of all this, towards the end of that day, everyone except the princess, who could not pardon Levin's action, became extraordinarily lively and good-humored, like children after a punishment or grown-up people after a dreary, ceremonious reception, so that by the evening Vasenka's dismissal was spoken of, in the absence of the princess, as though it were some remote event. And Dolly, who had inherited her father's gift of humorous storytelling, made Varenka helpless with laughter as she related for the third and fourth time, always with fresh humorous additions, how she had only just put on her new shoes for the benefit of the visitor, and on going into the drawing room, heard suddenly the rumble of the trap. And who should be in the trap but Vasenka himself, with his Scotch cap, and his songs and his gaiters, and all, sitting in the hay. If only you'd ordered out the carriage. But no. And then I hear. Stop. Oh, I thought they've relented. I look out, and behold a fat German being sat down by him and driving away. And my new shoes all for nothing. Chapter 16. Darya Alexandrovna carried out her intention and went to see Anna. She was sorry to annoy her sister and to do anything Levin disliked. She quite understood how right the Levins were in not wishing to have anything to do with Vronsky. But she felt she must go and see Anna, and show her that her feelings could not be changed, in spite of the change in her position. That she might be independent of the Levins in this expedition, Darya Alexandrovna sent to the village to hire horses for the drive, but Levin, learning of it, went to her to protest. What makes you suppose that I dislike your going? But, even if I did dislike it, I should still more dislike your not taking my horses, he said. You never told me that you were going for certain. Hiring horses in the village is disagreeable to me, and, what's of more importance, they'll undertake the job and never get you there. I have horses. And if you don't want to wound me, you'll take mine. Darya Alexandrovna had to consent, and on the day fixed Levin had ready for his sister-in-law a set of 4 horses and relays, getting them together from the farm, and saddle horses not at all a smart-looking set, but capable of taking Darya Alexandrovna the whole distance in a single day. At that moment, when horses were wanted for the princess, who was going, and for the midwife, it was a difficult matter for Levin to make up the number, but the duties of hospitality would not let him allow Darya Alexandrovna to hire horses when staying in his house. Moreover, he was well aware that the 20 rubles that would be asked for the journey were a serious matter for her. Darya Alexandrovna's pecuniary affairs, which were in a very unsatisfactory state, were taken to heart by the Levins as if they were their own. Darya Alexandrovna, by Levin's advice, started before daybreak. The road was good, the carriage comfortable, the horses trotted along merrily, and on the box, besides the coachman, sat the counting-house clerk, whom Levin was sending instead of a groom for greater security. Darya Alexandrovna dozed and waked up only on reaching the inn where the horses were to be changed. After drinking tea at the same well-to-do peasants with whom Levin had stayed on the way to Sviashki's, and chatting with the women about their children, and with the old man about Count Vronsky, whom the latter praised very highly, Darya Alexandrovna, at 10 o'clock, went on again. At home, looking after her children, she had no time to think. So now, after this journey of 4 hours, all the thoughts she had suppressed before rushed swarming into her brain, and she thought over all her life as she never had before, and from the most different points of view. Her thoughts seemed strange even to herself. At first she thought about the children, about whom she was uneasy, although the princess and Kitty, she reckoned more upon her, had promised to look after them. If only Masha does not begin her naughty tricks, if Grisha isn't kicked by a horse, and Lily's stomach isn't upset again. She thought. But these questions of the present were succeeded by questions of the immediate future. She began thinking how she had to get a new flat in Moscow for the coming winter, to renew the drawing-room furniture, and to make her elder girl a cloak. Then questions of the more remote future occurred to her, how she was to place her children in the world. The girls are all right, she thought, but the boys? It's very well that I'm teaching Grisha, but of course that's only because I am free myself now, I'm not with child. Stiva, of course, there's no counting on. And with the help of good-natured friends I can bring them up, but if there's another baby coming? And the thought struck her how untruly it was said that the curse laid on woman was that in sorrow she should bring forth children. The birth itself, that's nothing, but the months of carrying the child, that's what's so intolerable, she thought, picturing to herself her last pregnancy, and the death of the last baby. And she recalled the conversation she had just had with the young woman at the inn. On being asked whether she had any children, the handsome young woman had answered cheerfully, "I had a girl baby, but God set me free, I buried her last Lent." "Well, did you grieve very much for her?" asked Darya Alexandrovna. "Why grieve? The old man has grandchildren enough as it is. It was only a trouble. No working, nor nothing. Only a tie." This answer had struck Darya Alexandrovna as revolting in spite of the good-natured and pleasing face of the young woman, but now she could not help recalling these words. In those cynical words there was indeed a grain of truth. Yes, altogether, thought Darya Alexandrovna, looking back over her whole existence during those 15 years of her married life, pregnancy, sickness, mental incapacity, indifference to everything, and most of all hideousness. Kitty, young and pretty as she is, even Kitty has lost her looks, and I when I'm with child become hideous, I know it. The birth, the agony, the hideous agonies, that last moment, then the nursing, the sleepless nights, the fearful pains. Darya Alexandrovna shuddered at the mere recollection of the pain from sore breasts which she had suffered with almost every child. Then the children's illnesses, that everlasting apprehension, then bringing them up, evil propensities, she thought of little Masha's crime among the raspberries, education, Latin, it's all so incomprehensible and difficult. And on the top of it all, the death of these children. And there rose again before her imagination the cruel memory, that always tore her mother's heart, of the death of her last little baby, who had died of croup, his funeral, the callous indifference of all at the little pink coffin, and her own torn heart, and her lonely anguish at the sight of the pale little brow with its projecting temples, and the open, wondering little mouth seen in the coffin at the moment when it was being covered with the little pink lid with a cross braided on it. And all this, what's it for? What is to come of it all? That I'm wasting my life, never having a moment's peace, either with child, or nursing a child, forever irritable, peevish, wretched myself and worrying others, repulsive to my husband, while the children are growing up unhappy, badly educated, and penniless. Even now, if it weren't for spending the summer at the Levins, I don't know how we should be managing to live.